everybody, and welcome to my Bloodborne Noob guide. So this noob guide is going to be very focused on helping new players play through Bloodborne. I'm going to assume that you have no idea about the Dark Souls series, no idea about Bloodborne, that you've never played any of the games before, and you're having a really hard time playing through Bloodborne. You're just struggling. You think your character sucks, you know, you've been dying a lot, you're not sure what you're doing wrong. Well, this guide is probably going to be for you. So, just to start with, I'm going to go through in this first episode with how to play, some of the basic stats, what type of build we're going to use, and basically set the tone for the rest of the guide. Oops, we're not loading anybody. We're in a new game. So, to start with, I already have a template built out for this playthrough. So let me get my name in here. Now this playthrough is going to be a strength build playthrough. So you may be wondering already now, you're asking the question, why a strength build? Well, I'm going to get into that in a little bit because I'm going to explain all the stats, what they do, and I'm also going to explain why we decided to go with a strength build versus other builds. Now, of course, just like any Souls game, there's always going to be various ways you can play through it. Some are going to make certain parts easier, some are going to make certain parts harder. That's, in summary, what makes playing through a Souls game with different builds so much fun. It's because it makes certain areas more challenging than others, and it also gives you a new perspective on how to view the game mechanics and combat, as well as giving you different PvP options in the later part of the game. So to start, as soon as we get up off this table here, I'm going to go through a few settings. Alright, before you even do anything, everyone check their controls here. So check your auto target switch, make sure that's off, because if it's on, you will get really mad. Just put it bluntly. For your brightness, just make sure your brightness is set at a reasonable level. I got mine set to 1. And for your network, just make sure you're set to worldwide, just so you have more co-op and PvP options. Alright, so let's get into the settings. By the way, to get to this menu, just press your options key on your controller. So I'm going to use the help tab here to explain some of these. Alright, so level and blood echoes. So blood echoes determine how much experience you have. That's basically what blood echoes are. They're your experience points. And you use these experience points to level up your character. This level obviously is what level you are and is driven by these stats down here. Every time one of these stats increases, you will gain 1 level. Now, in order to increase these stats, you need your blood echoes or experience points. And every time you attempt to use those experience points to increase one of these stats, it will cost more and more points. So the higher level you are, the more blood echoes it's going to cost to level up. Now keep in mind, you also use blood echoes to purchase items, weapons, equipment, ammo, health. You can... So in a sense, blood echoes are also used as money. Insight is a very strange stat, and basically it can cause changes in the world as well as within your character. So to start out with, I'll just hit some of the key focus points of insight, and then I will also go on to say that this description of insight, it's actually very accurate. It basically changes the game world as you play, depending on how much insight you have. So, at level 1 insight, you will be able to level up, which is pretty awesome. So that's going to be a prime concern of you, is to get 1 insight so you can level up. At level 10, you'll be able to use an insight shop, where you can expend insight for different items. At level 40, you're going to start seeing things that you could not see before. So that is also a weird effect of insight. Excuse me. Now, in addition to that, the more insight you have, the lower your frenzy resistance. So frenzy is right down here. I'll get to that in a minute. Also, it doesn't say it here, but the lower your insight, the higher you, or the lower your beasthood resistance is, right down here. So in a way, it increases your beasthood. So it's almost like the higher your insight is, the lower your beasthood, the lower your frenzy resistance. So it's these two are very much related to insight. All right. So for vitality, very simple. The more vitality you have, the more HP you have. Endurance. This determines how much you can do at any one time. Every time you move and try to execute actions, you use up stamina, and stamina slowly regenerates over time. So endurance determines your maximum amount of stamina. It also has an effect on your resistances as well. Strength and skill. So these two are your primary combat attributes. So weapons are typically either strength-based or skill-based. So in this build, we're going to be focusing on strength-based weapons. There is another really good build for this game that focuses on skill weapons and blood tinge and all this other stuff, and arcane stats as well. But just like any Souls game, by focusing on any particular stat, you can play through it any number of ways. But your main weapons are going to be strength or skill based. Strength weapons obviously being bigger, bulkier weapons. Skill obviously being more nimble, dexterity type weapons. Blood tinge is a strange stat, and don't let it confuse you with its name. It's very focused on your firearms, actually. So typically, the higher blood tinge you have, the more damage your firearms are going to do. And the reason why they call it blood tinge is, I'm guessing, has a lot to do with the effect of your blood on your actual quicksilver bullets, because you can actually inject your blood into your bullets to get more bullets. There's a trick I will show you about later on how to do that. Arcane is kind of like a magic stat in a way. It has to deal with it says here certain equipment. So by certain equipment, there are certain hunter tools spread throughout the game world. And you can find these hunter tools and use them as if they were magical spells. That's basically how it works. There are a few weapons that also get bonuses to arcane. However, arcane builds are, they're very difficult to build. I have built a few arcane builds, but I don't recommend them for a new player. Obviously, I very much recommend what we're doing now for a new player, or would be making a video on it, but I would definitely stay away from arcane until you're very experienced with the game, and even then, just the arcane items and weapons that are currently out there in Bloodborne, I just don't recommend. Please keep in mind, I'm not speaking with regards to the new downloadable content. I'm speaking specifically to the original Bloodborne content, not including the new DLC. Over here, it just gives you this center column here is basically everything that your initial stats affect. So HP is your stamina. Item discovery is actually affected by arcane. So the higher arcane you have, the more item discovery you'll have. Here are your weapon damages. Since we have no weapons, then our main damage is just us punching. So that's pretty much why it's all at 25 at the moment. Now, physical defense is an interesting stat, simply because it's based off of your level. So every time you level up, your physical defense stat is going to increase. So naturally, you're going to want to level up as much as you can early on, not only so that you can increase your stats, but also so that you can increase your physical defense. This is your base physical defense that is not further reduced by your armor, which is what this section is over here. This is all your damage reduction based on your runes and armor. Now for these stats down here, your poison resistance, I believe that's pretty much self-explanatory, but I'll explain the difference between slow and rapid poison. Basically, slow poison is a very long duration poison over time. Rapid poison is a type of poison that it doesn't mean it accumulates faster. It's basically very similar to bleed damage in the previous Dark Souls games. So basically, once your stat for rapid poison increases to the max, in other words, as you get hit by a rapid poison item, you're constantly going to be accumulating this rapid poison effect, and once it completely maxes out, you will take a certain amount of damage. That's basically how rapid poison works. Same thing with frenzy. Frenzy, the more you get hit by a frenzied item, eventually at some point your frenzy is going to max out, and when it does max out, you're going to take a ton of damage. Frenzy actually really sucks. Beasthood, it really only comes into play with some of the beast-related items in the game. There aren't that many, but there are a few. So there's the Beast Claw, which you can get. It's a very special item, kind of hard to get in the dungeons. We'll get to that at some point. And then there's also the Beast Blood Pellet, excuse me, that helps to give you more of like a rage-induced effect to increase your damage. So, that being said, those are your basic stats. So we're going to continue on and play through this. So to start with, you're going to be in this room. You're going to have all this random shit. There's going to be some handwritten things around here. But basically what you're going to want to do is, you're going to want to go through here and die. Yes, I know what you're saying. Go through here and die. That sounds crazy. But that's really what you're going to do. Okay, there's tons of notes, tons of things written on the ground, helpful hints. And basically you're going to go over this way and you're going to see this massive beast chewing on this guy. Now you can beat this guy by punching him, but you're probably not going to be able to do that. So I'm not going to screw around too much trying to beat this guy just by punching. Now when you do die, you're going to appear in the Hunter's Dream, and we're going to be able to pick up some weapons and equipment. Then I will explain to you a little bit more about the combat and how that works. Okay, so as you walk up the stairs here in front of you, some guys will pop out with weapons and items. Just go talk to them. So the three weapons that we can choose from are the Saw Cleaver, Hunter's Axe, and Threaded Cane. Threaded Cane is definitely a very skill-focused weapon. You can see here, down at here, the attribute bonuses. It tells you an attribute requirements. It tells you what you need to use it and what types of bonuses the weapon gets from your stats. Obviously, the higher their rating, the more damage bonuses it's going to get. So, for example, if we look at Threaded Cane with a C in skill and an E in strength, we get +5. Whereas the Hunter's Axe, we get +9 because it's got a D in strength and an E in skill. And that mainly is because our strength skill is higher than our skill stat. Same thing with Saw Cleaver. Saw Cleaver overall is a lower damage weapon, but we still get +7 from it. Now, when it comes to looking at these weapons, the physical damage, these are all the damage attributes you want to focus on. So this is just a summary of your level information, just for reference. But durability is actually how much damage the weapon can take before it breaks. Once it does break, you won't be able to really use it anymore. Now for physical attack is going to be our primary damage attribute for this build. There are obviously other attributes you can enhance your weapon with, but I'm not going to get into those right now, mainly because those are arcane build weapons. Now, I'm really staying away from arcane in this build, simply because arcane is a very difficult stat to make effective. You really need to know how to play through the game, how to get all the different types of equipment and weapons, how to go through the dungeons and get up the special gems. And even then, even after you do all that and spend a ton of work doing all that, arcane builds really are not that effective. There's a couple videos out online on YouTube that explain why arcane builds aren't that great compared to other builds. So if you want to look at some of those when you're looking at building a new build for this, I do recommend that. However, for now, we're just going to be focusing on the physical attack. And for weapons, we're going to choose the Hunter's Axe. Also for this, we're going to choose, let's choose the pistol for this one. And then we're going to get a little notebook. Okay. So, let's equip our weapons. So to equip your weapons, just go to your options menu. Put your arms in here. These two are for melee, these two are for your projectile. And then we get some quick items. Now if you press, you know they have that huge pad on the PlayStation controller. If you press the left portion of the pad, you're going to get your gestures. And if you press the right portion of the pad, you're going to get more personal items. So I recommend putting your notebook in here. Alright, so now that we have weapons available, let me explain a little bit how to fight. So, you're always going to have primarily a weapon in your left hand, a weapon in your right hand. So, by default, your left L2 and L1 buttons are going to be corresponding to your left hand, and your R2 and R1 buttons are generally going to be focused on your right hand. So, R1 is your very basic attack. Just keep pressing it, you'll do a very basic combo. As you can see, my stamina slowly decreases as I'm swinging the weapon. Now for R2, it's generally going to be a charge attack. Now you can just press it to put out like a very generic swing attack or heavy attack, but if you hold it down, you can charge it up. Makes for a little bit more devastating of a hit. Now for the left hand buttons, L1 and L2, okay, L2 is going to be your gun. It's going to shoot a gunshot at your nearest target, or your whatever target you have locked on. L1, however, will transform your current weapon into something a little bit different. Now, whenever your weapon is transformed, you're going to be able to use L2, which is an additional attack button for your main weapon. So you'll see that my weapon attacks have changed quite a bit. So for our R1 attack, it's more of a sweeping combo. It also does a lot of different attacks. We have our charge attack for R2, our spin to win. Pretty awesome attack. And now for L2, you're going to have, which used to be your pistol shot, it's also going to be a different combo altogether. See, he holds the weapon back farther to get a little bit more range and has more sweeping motion. Now, during a combo or during a move, whenever you want to get out of your two-handed stance into your one-handed stance, you simply tap L1 and you'll move out of that stance using an attack, such as this. L1 changes into a two-handed, a shorter version, and same thing when I want to transform it during an attack. So keep that in mind as you're playing. It may allow you to use some different moves or different combos than you originally would have been able to. Just for example, some weapons have really quick R1 attacks, much quicker than their larger two-handed counterparts. So you may want to get a quick hit in to stagger an enemy, then transform and do a thrust and finish off with the rest of your hits. It can be very effective using certain weapons like that. So it's important to keep that in mind in the back of your head. Now, when it comes to dodging and getting hit in this game, there is no block button. So you simply, all you have is your dodge button, so your circle button. You just press circle in any direction corresponding with your movement stick, and you'll be able to dodge. Now, there's a bunch of little intricacies with the dodge button that you may not know. The first is if you just press dodge while standing still. Just like in Dark Souls, it'll cause you to back up. And you can combine this with an attack, and you basically have a counter-attacking retreat move. So you see that is one, and there's also is one for kind of like a thrust for your regular R1. There's basically there is a counter-attacking of a retreat attack for every single button press. This one actually is really good. It's for a that's using the strong R2 two-handed. Pretty good attack. So you keep that in mind. You have that little quick back step. Another thing to keep in mind is that you also have running attacks. So if you hold down circle, you'll start to run. So your running attack for that is a thrust, whereas for the basic version, it's kind of like a slash. You can also do a running R2. It's a little bit different. And this one should also have a running R2. There also is a jump attack in this game. So if you press forward, if you press forward and R2, you'll do a jumping heavy attack. It's good if you want to get that added range from the jump attack to hit your enemy and still do a really big staggering attack on them. Overall, that pretty much summarizes the combat, so to speak. It's going to be a large series of those different types of moves. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through different parts of the area. This is a shop. You can buy and sell things here. One of the first things we're going to want to do is we're going to get this armor. So we're going to go out, play through the beginning area a little bit, and then I'm going to try to keep these videos down to 30 minutes. So these headstones here, these also are basically links to other areas. If anyone of you have ever played Demon's Souls on the PlayStation 2, you'll be familiar with that type of setup. And pretty much covers everything, so to speak, for generic combat. So let's get into it, shall we? So one of the first things you're going to want to get used to doing when you're in combat is you're going to want to get used to clicking in your right stick and targeting enemies. Targeting enemies is a huge thing in the Souls games. You're always going to want to stay focused on a particular enemy, especially when you're in combat, or unfocus on them, so click off them when you're trying to retreat. So all you need to do is click in your stick and a dot will appear. See the dot? That means I have him locked on. Now, what this changes is it changes your dodge. You can see now I'm dodging side to side like this. It's kind of like sidestepping. Now, the key thing you're going to want to realize is attack priorities on certain enemies. Some enemies will attack more straight ahead, some will attack from side to side, and use that to determine which way you want to dodge in the combat. Keep in mind, Bloodborne is a very aggressive game. So especially if you're a Dark Souls player, one of the things that took me a while to learn was that it's better to be too aggressive than too defensive in Bloodborne. So let's go in here. All you're going to want to do is just charge in here, finish him off. Good stuff, he's done. You'll see I opened up with a quick dash attack, so if you dash forward and press an attack button, you'll do like a dash attack. It's a very useful attack to do. You just go and finish off those guys. We're going to get some blood vials. Now, one of the unique things about combat in Bloodborne is that as you get hit, you don't lose all your health right away. You have a chance where you can get some of your health back by hitting an enemy. That's why it kind of favors the more aggressive player. I'll try to give an example here real quick. Let me go find a jabroni enemy to fight. Close by device. Oh, that's right, we need to go this way. some items down here. Some blood vials. Those are very easy to miss if you're not focused on it. So there should be an enemy right up here that we can fight. So you see how much damage that did? See? It did a lot of damage, and I'm slowly getting my health back as I hit it. So that's kind of how the combat works. Is as you get hit, you take damage, but you can also get that damage, you can recover that health depending on how much damage you do back to the enemy. So you're going to want to keep that in mind as you play through Bloodborne, and let that dictate your strategies. This guy, you got to watch out. There's a lot of guys that come back to life, so to speak, in this game. Don't be afraid to use this strong attack. It actually is very, very effective. Good stuff. Now, after you bring down this ladder, you just go right up here, and you'll come to your first save point. You can hold circle while on the ladder to increase or decrease your climbing speed. Hear that scream in the background? Got a blood-starved beast that's awakened. Alright, just go up to this, flip the lamp, and now you can go back to the Hunter's Dream whenever you want. So that pretty much concludes my first video. I hope this helps people get a better understanding of Bloodborne, about what type of build we're going to have, about what the different stats do. Of course, if anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them in the comments below. The Bloodborne Wiki on Fextra Life is a very comprehensive tool for understanding what different stats and effects do. But to start with, this is pretty much going to be our noob guide build. Thank you very much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you guys in for the next noob guide.